I pressed the go live button too soon. God damn it. Come on in, y'all. Too soon, too soon. What up, y'all? What up, y'all? Let's talk. I'm waiting for some more people to come in. Since this is live, let's see what happens. It may not be long. What up, Thomas? What's up, man? Hit the like button, please. Please, please. It'll get more people in the conversation. I don't think it's going to be a long conversation. I mean, there are takeaways that could be had from both sides. I'm just waiting for more people to come in. I normally would do this from my laptop. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but I do want to see how many people come in. What's up, y'all? If you're coming in, can you hit the like button, please? If you're coming in, can you hit the like button, please? If you're coming in, can you hit the like button, please? Okay, I sent him his. Watching from Columbus, Ohio. What's going on, Gavin? What's up, Bilal? What's up? What's up? I'm just waiting for some more people to come in. See what happens. I've watched enough. Of course, there's more to come out. But I've watched enough of this stuff between Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony to form somewhat of an opinion about this. I know there are some definite takeaways. Definite takeaways on both sides. What's going on, Joseph? How are you? Hope you're well. If y'all could do me a favor, I got 34 people watching, 6 people with the like. Can you hit that like button? It just gets more people in the conversation. That's why I'm asking you to do that, please. So let's not delay. And of course, I'll repeat it multiple times as we're talking. So Karmelo Anthony goes to the side where another team has a tent because of weather or whatever the case may be. Or no weather, just wanted to set up a tent. Doesn't matter. Tent's there, okay? I could tell you from obviously having been in high school, graduated from high school, when I was in the marching band in Chicago, it's not common to go sit on the other opposing team's side. That's not common unless you have people that you know go to that particular high school, whatever the case may be. You might be there with a specific person, but there are areas where you've got teams, you know, and especially in the band. I was in a marching band in Chicago. I wish Dunbar or Corliss or King, they didn't have a band like that when we were in high school, but King or Simeon, or I wish another band would come on our side. In fact, that would cause conflict. That would cause conflict. And so we just don't do that. We just don't do that, right? So you kind of got to know you going on another. I mean, you're there at a competition. The fact that you're there at a competition already has opposing. It's a competitive spirit. Does that make sense? You know, now TNT said I can sit where I want if I want to sit anywhere and everywhere. Yeah, okay, that's true legally, but does that cause problems? And I think you might be just joking around when you said that, right? So there's that, right? You go and sit on a side, and if you're not known to the team and if you're not known to those people, it's going to automatically be an issue, right? So then Austin approaches you, says you're on the wrong side or whatever the case may be, move. People automatically want to make this a race issue because of the racial makeup of the persons in this situation, when in fact, whether it be the predominant theme or whatever the case may be, it is not unreasonable for people to challenge you when you're at a specific area of the bleachers that's designated for the team. So you were challenged, right? Then words to the effect of, I'm not going to move or whatever the case may be, make me move, goes in the bag, I dare you, touch me. And of course, I'm paraphrasing words, right? I dare you, touch me. That to me doesn't scream, I'm being bullied. You see what I'm saying? That to me doesn't scream, I'm being bullied. One, you got to have TDCC, time, distance, cover, and or concealment. Time and distance at a minimum to even be able to go into the bag and then touch this thing that you would later use against a person. You got to have time and distance to be able to do that. That's not something I could see in a I'm about to lose my life type situation. I don't see that, right? But Austin isn't out of the woodwork either. Austin is not out of the woodwork either. He's not out of the fields with this. Because if you asked Karmelo to leave and Karmelo says, no, I dare you, touch me, whatever the case may be, and you see somebody go in their book bag or a bag of sorts with a knife, or not a knife, but we don't know it's a knife yet, but you go into the bag and I sit here and say, I dare you, touch me, sign off in the comments. What's your next best thing? What are you going to do? Now, Tanks on E says you can't have a knife or a firearm on school property, argument over. We're not talking about the argument. You're right, 1000%, but we're not talking about the argument. We're talking about avoiding. Yeah, maybe don't even bother talking. That's one. What's another thing that we could do, right? Oh, you want me to move? Make me. What's your next move? What's your next move? I'm just saying, what is your next move? Because according to the police report, according to witness accounts, Austin put his hand on Karmelo. You see what I'm saying? Austin put his hand. I'm not saying it's self-defense. In my opinion, we don't know what that means when they say he put his hand on him. They didn't get to the extent of what that meant. He put his hand on him. That could mean several things from an argument standpoint. You see what I'm saying? My thing is this. I dare you, touch me, make me move. What do we do with that? Yes, come on now, Gavin. That's what I'm talking about. His best bet would have been not to engage with Carmelo Anthony and got a school administrator or a coach or even the police. Just walk off. If Austin would have walked off, he would still be alive today. I'm not saying that what Karmelo did was justified. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Now, I know some people are going to see the thumbnail and see Austin on one side, Karmelo on the other. And I went to the lengths of getting the best pictures of the both of them. Right? I think I did. I got Austin in his football thing, leader, and Karmelo in his picture school, right? Because I don't want to portray them either. There are things that we can learn from both sides. Both sides. That's one of the main things I'm saying, from both sides. Karmelo should not have been sitting on that side. As a band member, if Dunbar come over to CVS, we got problems. If CVS go over to Dunbar, we got problems. That's conflict. It's unnecessary. If those who support one team goes to the other side and it goes to those are problems. Those are problems. That's a thing. That's a thing in school. That's a thing in school. Now, Tanks on E said it was raining that day. He didn't want to get wet. That's not a. Bring an umbrella. Bring an umbrella. These phones that we got are very smart. You can anticipate the weather. Bring an umbrella. That's not gonna work. Now, you said this isn't elementary school. Seats weren't assigned. Well, Osmosis Jones, in prison, cells are assigned. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying what Karmelo did was self-defense. What I'm saying is we don't know the extent to which Austin put his hands on Karmelo. We don't know that extent. But what I'm saying is this. Karmelo should have got up and walked away, and Austin should have kept his hands to himself. That's what I'm saying. If somebody goes inside of the, you need to get up and you're on the wrong side. And let's not even throw in if he would have thrown in the hard R in the end, if that came in, right? No, I agree. He didn't need to stab him. He didn't need to stab him at all. He didn't need to stab him. I agree with you 1,000%. I am not saying that Karmelo is right. I'm not saying that. The point of talking about this is the takeaways. The takeaways. That's what I'm saying. What do we take away from this? If Austin would have kept his hands to himself and went to get a school administrator or a coach or an adult, Austin would still be alive today. More likely than not. If Karmelo, excuse me, would have walked away when he was told he was not wanted there, he would not be facing life in prison. I don't know, Jay Ecker. I don't know if he would have stabbed. I'm not going to go to that length because that's a valid question, but we don't know that. That's all I'm saying. You said life in prison and parents should be held accountable. I have no argument on that. Don't get me wrong. You're talking somebody who is harshly critical of the black community and the parenting in the community. I have nothing to suggest, nothing whatsoever to suggest that they raised him right or wrong. I don't know. Because if you want me to take a position on him bringing the knife to the track, then I have to take a position on school shooters, most of whom are what? White. And as a child developer, I'm not going to let you force me into either corner because I understand what causes children to engage in violence. Black culture cultivates conflict. I said what I said. You don't have to like me. Black culture cultivates conflict. Black children are not allowed to walk away from their parents who do too much. If black children sit there and talk back to their parents, pow, shut your mouth. You're to be seen and not. So if we're going to have that conversation, we're going to have that conversation. So that's what I'm saying. Let's not go there because I'm qualified to talk about it. Very qualified to talk about it. What part of black culture cultivates conflict besides rap music? Did you not just hear what I was talking about? I'm talking about early childhood education. Black culture is one of the many purveyors of creating harsh conditions for children to try to grow and thrive. And I just, thank you, Osmosis Jones. I just gave examples. Just gave examples. I'm qualified to teach it. I'm certified in whatever. I'm qualified to teach it as an early childhood educator, as a parenting coach, a facilitator in this space. That's okay, Matthew. It's okay. Thank you. Don't call the police is ingrained in the culture. Right? Little Demetrius runs home from school and then tells mom or dad or mom and dad, or this day, mom, dad, whatever, right? Sits there and tells them, I ran from home. What is likely going to be the result? What did you run home for? Well, Bruce was trying to fight me and I didn't want to fight and I ran home. What happened? Oh, you put your book back right now. We going to the park right now and we gonna fight Bruce. Bruce gonna learn to keep his hands to himself. So what do? You gas that child up. Gas that child up to get into conflict. Osmosis Jones, here we go. Remember those stop snitching ads? Absolutely. Now, you said the lack of fathers in our homes have destroyed our communities. Yes and no, because if the fathers who are grown adult black men come from homes where they weren't taught any life skills, you could have the presence of a father there, but if the father is just as ignorant as the mother, now you got two ignorant folks trying to sit here and educate this child who is naturally ignorant because they just got here. These two are supposed to be smart, but they're not. So it's not the absence of the father, it's the absence of skilled, qualified people. See, single parenting is no more of a problem than what would be a problem if you had a principal who walked into a school with 100 kids and no resources and no other people, other teachers, other staff smarter than the principal. That's the problem. Single parenting isn't the problem. The lack of qualified people and better relationships to help that child be better than the father and the mother. That's the problem. Single mothers who have a desire to want to do it by themselves and not build positive relationships with other qualified people. That's the problem. Does that make sense? That's the problem. It's not single, because one person can administer and lead by themselves. We have company commanders, we have battalion commanders, we have platoon commanders. You see what I'm saying? One person can be the leader, but you need other qualified people to play their positions because it's a teamwork thing. It's a teamwork thing. Does that make sense? So it's not, well, if you got a dad there, because there are people who come from two-parent families who are just as dumb. Just as dumb. You see what I'm saying? Yes, Ash, no chains on me. I can do bad all by myself is the single lady theme. Absolutely. Absolutely. You get what I'm saying? Absolutely. So that's the problem. Now, I have nothing to suggest. Oh, that's a great question, Austin. If Austin overpowered him and got the knife, how does this situation change ethically? I don't know. He didn't get stabbed. He won. But what's the likelihood of that? You see what I'm saying? Anytime you engage in a conflict with someone who has a weapon, you have to take into consideration the fact that you may not win. Like it's literally 50-50. Does that make sense? It's 50-50. I got you, Tank Sonny. I want to read your comment. It's 50-50. You said Austin wouldn't have stabbed him. I agree. It's possible. He might not have stabbed him. But in this case, it didn't work out. Like, see, what do we talk about in law enforcement circles? And I'm a former cop and a former police trainer, so I can speak to this, right? ANA, you see that certification right there? What does that say? Force science analyst, right? So as a force science analyst, what is the one thing that we try to tell people about a knife? That 21-foot rule, whatever the case may be. Don't try to fight a person with a knife, especially when you're in that. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying, right? So how do we sit there and apply this rule to police and say, don't engage in a knife? But then with Austin, what if he did? No, we don't recommend doing that. You said he's a pro tackler, so there's a 50-50. I get that's what I'm saying. And in this case, it did not work out. It didn't work out. And that's what I'm saying, right? You said someone tells me, touch me, and I see what happens. IQ says back off. Yes, Tanks on E. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying any one of them deserved it. That's not where I'm going with this. What I'm saying is you sit there, tell him to move. You're on the wrong side, right? You're on the wrong side. Now, there are those who would sit there and go at this angle. What you mean the wrong side? The colored side? That's not what I'm saying. People who try to take this from a racist perspective, it's funny because why? It doesn't even need to go there, right? But let's just go there. Here we go. Let's just go there. This is the whites only side and you're colored, right? So if you're colored and you get on over here, right, and you're on the wrong side and this is for the whites and you're in the colored section, are you asking for conflict? Are you asking for conflict? Right? If this one says whites only and you're colored, you're asking for conflict. If you come on over to the white side and you mean to tell me out of all these cream colored folks, you didn't see any darkies over here and you bring your dark self over here and think it's going to work out, it's not going to work out for you. But I'm going to tell you one more time. You got to go. You're on the wrong side. Your kind is over there. Right? So let's go there since you want to go there, right? Your kind is over there. And then you say, amongst other whites, how dare you touch me? You're asking for conflict. You're asking for conflict. I'm only using that language for people who want to go there. Does that make sense? Those of you who are able to understand a logical argument, you know why I'm going there. You said you're talking about public high schoolers having street smarts. Now, see, the problem is adults think children and teenagers are ignorant when you're just as ignorant. In fact, children and teenagers are smarter than you give them credit for. But what do I know? Does that make sense? Do you think the same thing would have happened if a black football player confronted him? If a black football player confronted him, they probably would have got to fighting. He might have gotten stabbed too. He might have gotten stabbed. He might have gotten stabbed. First of all, you said that's abusive parents, coach, not black parents. No, black parents are the same thing. Black parents are the same thing. You said, I just want to know what happened prior to the stabbing. Well, Osmosis Jones, according to reports, right? Karmelo, are you talking about that? You said, Lori, hey, not saying that they are ignorant, but they are not as experienced because they generally have not been taught. I don't know. See, I could sit there and say, as a early childhood educator, somebody who's worked in a school, somebody who's dealt with children, you know, my resume and experience, I'm not special. I'm just speaking to what I can actually factually prove, empirical thing. Children and teenagers get underestimated a lot. They get underestimated a lot. So I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you. I mean, and it's not a disagreement or an agreement thing. I mean, you have a right to your opinion and your experience. I don't know if I believe that. You know, in fact, don't get me wrong. I get where you're going with it. You said, oh, no, I know. I mean, in accordance with your experience and those you've been around. But on the whole, right, they may not have this, I've been alive on this earth X amount of years. But who's to say within that time frame that they have not experienced things? You see what I'm saying? And so I don't know. I just get it. No point in getting the what ifs. The facts are already out there, and that's not what happened. Well, Veronica, Tell us what happened. Because the facts according to who? I've watched this story multiple times. Give me 1 minute. I watched this. I'm going to read your comments. I promise I am. Do me a favor. Hit the like button, please. I've watched this story multiple times from multiple angles. The black angle, the white angle, and those who try to stay in between. Look at him. What's in the bag? You keep sticking your hand in there. I dare you. Touch me. If somebody says, I dare you, touch me, after you ask them, tell them, order them to move, what's your next bet? Now, here we go. Tropical Smoothie Cafe, shameless plug, right? Am I coming out with a smoothie? I didn't say smoothie, I said smoothie. Am I coming out with a smoothie? Do you want to find out? And in order for you to get stabbed, you got to be in proximity for that to happen. Does that make sense? Oh, 30 round. Does that make sense? That's all I'm saying. Conflict avoidance. Conflict. You said it's a bowl. Where my bowl at? Look at you. I'm not even done. I started this live before I even finished it. What am I coming out with? And I'm not making fun of Austin, nor am I making fun of Karmelo. This is conflict of, because I'm a teacher. That's what I do. This is a teaching channel. Does that make sense? I'll tell you, have a nice day and walk along. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Now, Joseph Hernandez said, LOL, I'm only a brown belt in BJJ. For those who don't know, that's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. My kids are taught to respect authority and others through martial arts, ethics, and homeschooling. Public schools and no fathers in the home are the ones failing them. I agree with you, Joseph. I agree. You get no disagreement. I love my homeschoolers and my homeschool teachers. I love you guys because you guys are actually invested in your children. You're investing in teaching them many different things. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I love it. You know, and I'm just saying, if Austin would have walked away, he would be alive. If Karmelo didn't bring that knife to the track meet, he wouldn't have had an instrument to stab Austin with. Does that make sense? Neither one, in my opinion, were winners in this. He's not going to be able to claim self-defense. I'm just going to say he's not going to be able to claim self-defense in this. I don't see a viable self-defense argument. You said, I would love to see both of these guys' school characters. What was their reputation? Yeah, that would be good to know. Can't say kid conflicts happen anywhere, period. I don't know what that means. Is there any videos of the altercation? That would be a good question. Is the track, I know it ain't mic'd up, but are there videos? Does that make sense? Are there videos? I would like to see that. Great question. It's 50-50 at best. You don't know what's going to happen. Why did he bring a knife to a track meet? I agree. I totally agree. What was going on to the point where he felt he had to bring a knife? Yes, Roxy, the weapon wins. Not all the time, but most of the time, the weapon typically does win. And when I heard his dad say that witnesses said, triple hearsay, right? But the witnesses say that Austin put his hands on Karmelo. I'm like, well, sure. If somebody sits there and says, and they reach in a bag, I dare you touch me. Let's not touch that guy. Let's not. Does that make sense? Like, let's not. I don't care. You're the captain of the football team. You're doing the right thing. The right thing would have been to walk away. Right? No, it's nothing in this bag, but you don't know. I dare you touch me. You don't know that. You don't know there's nothing in this bag. You see what I'm saying? And here we go. Let's just say it's a pum. Do you think I need to come out of the bag through this bag? Does that make sense? I don't need to come out of the bag through the bag. Yeah, don't play hero. Come on. Austin would be alive if he would have walked away. This ain't an ABC after school special. You don't get to sit there and put your hands on the guy, especially in this day and age, where this ain't the colors and the whites. Don't get mad. I'm just using the language of the then. I'm not a racist. Don't do that to me. I'm an independent. I'm not conservative. I'm not liberal. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm independent in the middle, probably leaning more conservative than liberal. Yeah, I would definitely say that. But this really isn't that. This is a conflict avoidance type thing. Like, I don't need to come out of the bag to stab through the bag. You get that, right? I don't need to come out of the bag to stab through the bag. Now, I'm going to demo this by using a nail clipper so that YouTube don't take it down and get mad and stuff like that, right? I don't need to come out of the bag. Matter of fact, I'll give you one even better. Here's a nail file so that YouTube can't say nothing bad. Here's a nail file, right? Nail file. It's in the bag. You know, I don't need to, right? I don't need to come out of, I'm not saying he had a paper bag. He had a book bag. But still, with a knife, I don't need to come out of the bag to be able to do it through the bag. I can still use the bag instead. So why be that close? Every weapon has a minimum and maximum effective distance. So it's Austin's fault. No. Listen to the words that I use. I never said fault. Fault by definition means to blame someone for their mistakes. Mistake by definition means an action or a judgment that is simply wrong or misguided. So I'm not using the word fault. No. But does he bear responsibility for putting his hands on someone who went in a bag with a hand missing and you don't know what's in that bag, and then you put your hand on him after he challenged you? I dare you touch me. Yes, he bears responsibility for that. Yes, you bear responsibility for that. Yes, you do. Had Austin walked away, he would have still been alive. He would have still been alive, man. Look, what do they say about the coward living to tell the tale of how the hero died? That's all that I'm saying. The coward lived to tell the tale of how the hero died. Be the coward. Be the coward. Dale Jackson said, I feel like it was premeditated. Karmelo sat somewhere where he felt like he would get into conflict. Yes, I agree. Austin shouldn't have put his hands on him. They both were wrong. I agree. 1,000%. Now, let's talk about self-defense. Here we go. Self-defense is a community concept. It's a community standard. What does that mean? What would the majority of the people in that county say to this type of self-defense? Those of you all who have followed me, you know I've talked about reason, right, and reasonable. Reason, right, and reasonable. Reason, right, and reasonable. Reason. Well, we could all find a reason to do something, right? We could all find a reason to do something. Right, whether or not something is right, is what's codified in statutory or case law, right? But reasonableness of an action is not determined by you. The reasonableness of an action is determined by the majority of the people in the county where the case is going to be tried, because those are who are going to be your triers of fact. When Karmelo goes before the court, it's either going to be a judge in a bench trial. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be a bench trial, or it's going to be a jury. And that's going to consist of, or be made of, as close to the people who kind of look like you within that county, right? Lawyers are going to go through the process of voir dire, things like that. And they're going to have your preemptory challenges on both the prosecution and the defense. And they're going to try to get a jury that's kind of half prosecution, half defense. You see what I'm saying? And so that's where the reasonableness of this is going to be decided. And so as a philosopher, I like to look at Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. Act on a maxim that can be willed as universal law. So here we go. On this maxim, for somebody putting their hands on you And that's vague right there because we don't know the extent, the manner in which he allegedly, actually, or factually put his hands on Karmelo. That's what's remain. That we don't see anything that talks about the way that hands were put on. I wish there was videos so we could see it. That would be something to talk about. But if hands are being put on, should you use a knife? Now, as a force science analyst, see that little thing right there? Yeah, I'm qualified to talk about, well, there are certain circumstances where you might want to use a knife, right? But then before we get to the hands and before we get to the knife, we got to get to the, why did you go to that side if you, do y'all get what I'm saying? I'm going to read the comments. I'm gonna read to the comments, right? I'm just saying, does that make sense? Right? Do we get to the side of what, if anything, caused you to think that going to this side was going to be okay, especially if you're on the opposing team? You said, hey, Mike, I bought your book for my granddaughter off Amazon. I think it's called What I Tell Myself First. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. You're going to enjoy that book. Matter of fact, that's my first book I wrote. It's one of my best sellers. I appreciate that. Kid went looking for trouble and found it. Yeah, that can be argued. You said, come on, bro. Don't say that. Don't say that anybody can get a piece of paper to make you qualify for anything. You sound dumb without disrespecting you, brother. How you gonna? Okay, moving on. From what I understand and did my homework and spoke to people from the school, the young kid went over looking for trouble with the opposite team and they got out of hand. Well, okay, so if he went over there looking for trouble, but then just because, thank you for the heart, just because a person goes over there and looking for trouble, does that mean I give it to him? Think about that. Just because you come to me looking for conflict, do I choose to engage in that conflict? Does that make sense? Does that mean I engage in that conflict? Can I choose to be a bigger hero, not for how everyone else would see me, but for me backing off? Can I back off and still be okay? And I'm not, please, set aside your value judgments. Set aside your value judgments, right? What is a value judgment? What's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's legal, illegal, moral, immoral, ethical, unethical. Those are all value judgments. Just set that aside. Let's look at this objectively. Objectively. You said they could have just thrown hands. Adam, why are we trying to throw hands? Does that make sense? If he was causing an issue, they could have called over school staff and they could have moved him to visitors. Yes, that's all that I'm saying. Why are we talking about throwing hands? Where were the track coaches when this went down? Yes. Ego wouldn't let him back off. Yes, that can be argued too. In the interview, the Metcalf's brother said of Anthony, he was getting aggressive and talking reckless. That sounds like black folk lingo, talking reckless. Were there other black athletes around? Great question. Great question. I'm not going to eliminate that. There are still some unknowns that we don't know. But what I'm saying is this. In order for you to get stabbed, you got to be close. You got to be close. Where was the exigency in this situation where you had to get close to a person with a knife? You said very random, but this is my first time seeing your content in a while. It seems like you lost a lot of weight. I just added a lot of, good on you, brother. Thank you. I have lost weight and I'm continuing to lose weight. Thank you. I appreciate that. You said that's why they're in sports. Well, but that's different types of contact, right? And this is a track meet, right? One is a football star and this isn't a football game. This is a track meet. That's a non-contact sport. Does that make sense? That's a non-contact sport. So yes, I agree. Right? Yes, you can still lose your life from throwing hands. People lose their lives getting into fights. Yes, Dale, I appreciate that. You're right. So one, do we have to? Veronica, as a retired sergeant NYPD, thank you for your service. He has no self-defense in this situation. I agree. I can't say he has self-defense without any other qualifying information, right? To qualify for self-defense, the use of force must be reasonably necessary and the degree of force must be proportional. So in other words, let's break that down in non-police terms. I love cops. Cops love to explain things in cop language, which is case law, instead of breaking it down to average lay person. So in other words, the force is kind of got to match, right? And then here we go. It kind of has to match, so to speak, and the community, right? The county wherein this case occurs, they are the triers of fact. Do they believe that this use of force that you use is something that the majority of the people in that county would do? Does that make sense? The majority, yeah, I agree. This whole thing was, if somebody tells you that you're in the wrong tent, you have to leave. The kid should have just left. Karmelo should have just, oh, my bad, I'm sorry. But he knew what he was doing. You're not going to sit there and tell me you walked over to this tent that's obviously got Memorial, and you don't go to Memorial, and, and you don't know that you're on the wrong side. What did you have to do? You had to go into the gated area, go up the stairs, go to the bleachers, go sit in that area. You took steps with the knife in the bag to that area. That's the wrong area. It isn't as though it was a door. There were no signs on the door. Then you just opened up the door. Oh shit, wrong room. Sorry guys, you're doing your KKK thing. I'm just saying that shit for the people who are racist, right? Oh, is that, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh shit, wrong room, my bad. That's not that. That's not that. This is we're in an open area. You had knife in bag. Your side is over there. You're on this side, and you took step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. How many steps? That's why I said I would love to see the video of the stadium where they were. Of the stadium where they were, right? And I'd love to count each step. If I were the prosecutor, I would love to count each step, tracing how many steps it took for you. And at any one of those steps, you could have recognized and turned back. You could have recognized and turned back. Yet and still, you didn't turn back. You kept going. You kept going. You went close to the area where the tent is. I would get medical records to look at his eyes to see what was his last eye exam. Talk to the optometrist. Does that make sense? Talk to the optometrist. Hold on. Adam, you said something. Adam Marcus, you back in high school, you know there would have been a clean fight. Times are just different now. Actually, no, it would not have been a clean fight when I was in high school. I graduated in 99, and having gone to Chicago Vocational High School, I was in the marching band. Now, different schools have different marching bands, right? But ask anybody who's from Chicago during the early to late 90s. Marching band was serious. You might as well say you were on varsity football. Marching band was very serious. Dunbar, who was our main competition, if you will, Dunbar is not going to find themselves on CVS side. CVS is not going to find themselves on Dunbar's side. Corliss is not going to come on Dunbar. Dunbar is not going to go on Corliss. Everybody at Gately Stadium or Farragut Stadium or whatever, we knew what side we were on. Yes, Thomas Crowley, Drumline showed how serious band can be. You don't cross that side, you gonna get checked for sure. There are times where we got into fucking fight. Not me. I didn't do that shit. I just watched them fight. Fuck that. I'm a musician, not a fighter. Does that make sense? Like, you know not to go on that side. You asking for problems. Why would you do such a thing? Yeah, you said back in the day that boy would have never made it on the tent. Boy, it would have got way worse than you pulling out a knife. You'd have never had a chance to pull out that knife. Boy, please, we'd have got out on your little ass. It would have been the other way around. It would have been the other way around. Yeah, come on, Richard. You said I went to Inglewood and Harper. Bet not come on outside, boy. Bring your ass on that side and see what happened. You ain't fuck. Boy, you fuck around if you want to. Find your ass on some other shit. So what I'm saying is, Karmelo, let's talk facts. Let's talk facts, right? Karmelo knew he could do that shit. Because he, one of them young black boys, probably one of the YN generation. You know what I'm saying? I wish a motherfucker would. And Karmelo, quote, won that fight. But he lost his life in the process. Does that make sense? He won that fight with a knife, which I'm not surprised. Surprised it wasn't a gun, but shit happens, right? But he lost his life. Isn't that par for the course in our culture? Look, you ain't gotta like me. You don't have to like me. But let's look at the pattern. The pattern, right? What did he say? Say he's a good kid, got a 4.0. Boy, there's plenty of gangsters that's smart. I'm not saying Karmelo's a gangster. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is the whole he's a good kid, got a 4.0. You ask any cop who works in a black neighborhood, who deals with the school and doesn't have like a racist mindset or whatever the case may be. And even if you do, I don't give a fuck. But you work with the kids, you know, just because he got a 4.0 and is a good kid at home, who you are at home could be different from who you are in the streets. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is this. Neither Austin nor Karmelo are winners in this situation. Austin told him to leave, right? Told him to leave. Told him to leave, right? You're on the wrong side, right? And you could add whatever little lingo or whatever little statement. Look, boy, I ain't saying he said that shit, but you know what I'm saying? You on the wrong side now. You go on, get to your side, okay? You better go on ahead and get over there with your Sha'Carri Richardson and your fast folks from Africa. You know you run fast. Let's just say he said that. He didn't say that, but let's just say for those of you all who want to go that far, right? Why not just go to your side and avoid the conflict? This is a great thing in conflict avoidance. You have a right to be upset, but avoid the conflict. Does that make sense? You knowingly went to the wrong side and expected not to get into some shit. Yeah, Travis Rose said it. Every mama thinks their sons are fucking angels. You know it. You said that is completely false. As a 4.1 GPA student, I had to work my ass off. What does that mean? What did you say? Education is different now. They give out 4.0s now. I don't know about that. My son got a 4.2, I believe, and he had to work his ass off in school. So I don't know. Now, degrees, they give out. Diplomas, they give out. GPAs, different story. Different story. You get what I'm saying? Now, here we go, Phil Mayo. Ain't no wrong side in a free country. I mean, yes, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But you get what I'm saying, though. Do you get what I'm saying? I want a shirt like what... I got this from Spencer's. No, Spencer. Yeah, I got this from Spencer's. I am unstoppable. Yeah, I got this from Spencer's. Yeah. T-Rex with little arms. What you do? Get an extension. Get another T-Rex, right? Who says he got a bite with these jaws and teeth? Why he just can't do it with the little ones? Come on now, there's other ways to get around doing stuff. Does that make sense? No, they don't give out good GPA. Yeah, Travis, you're right. They don't give out good GPA. They're constantly pushing 1.0 GPAs to the next grade to keep state funding. Part of the problem, I agree. GPA is way harder, bro. Oh, no. Sound like he wasn't getting mental health treatment and he cracked looking for trouble. I don't know. That's the thing. It's possible. He shouldn't have had the knife, but depending upon how heated the rivalry of the schools are, You shouldn't be surprised to see a fight on off the field. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. You're not wrong. I know I'm off topic, but what's your view on Walther PDP Pro Compact? I haven't used it, so I don't know. I know Walther PDP is a good brand. I know that. I've tried those before, right? But I don't know anything about that specific firearm, so I couldn't give an opinion. Literacy rate isn't getting better over the years either. I agree. If he said that he's not alleged that he did that, I don't think he had any type of remorse about it. I don't know. I don't have anything to suggest he did or didn't have remorse. I'm just looking at how this could have been avoided. Does that make sense? Austin could have kept his hands to himself, got a school official, right? Karmelo should have stayed on whatever his school's side was and not go to the opposing side, right? And if, in fact, you're the little black morsel amongst all these white folks, which is good. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind being that either. But if you're going over there, just know there's going to be some apprehension before they get to know you. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I dare you try me. Because one of them might not care about what's in that bag. So in my opinion, neither side are winners. Neither side can claim a W in this. Austin would still be alive had he kept his hands to himself. That's it. If he would have kept his hands to himself, he would have still been alive. And Karmelo wouldn't be facing a life with prison without the possibility of parole or whatever the max is. If he would have not brought the knife there, there's so many shit. There's so many things we can point out to Karmelo as to what the fuck he could have did differently. You didn't have to go on that side. You didn't have to take those steps. You could have turned around at any point in time. You passed, you went over there, you got on the bleachers. They told you to move. Should have got your ass up and gone. Like, you didn't have to go inside of the bag to get the knife. I don't care that you brought a knife to the track meet because maybe shit's dangerous where you live. Maybe you want to protect yourself. I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me. I don't care. As a kid who has grown up in inner city Chicago, that has had to do things to try to survive, that doesn't bother me. I don't care about that. Other people have an opinion on that. I don't. But that could have been avoided. That's all I'm saying. You said when standing your ground is illegal? Nah, that's not standing your ground. That's dumb on both sides. Crazy to pull a knife too. Never know what the other person's got in their bag. Yeah. I mean, but why did it get there though? Hi, Mike. My question is, was there a coach or coaches at this time when the madness unfolded? I don't know. They tried to ask the school for an opinion about security, and the school didn't say anything. They just said Karmelo was there for a track meet. That's the only thing they confirmed. So I don't know, Thor. It's a good question. He's not talking about legality. He's saying regardless, both sides could have done something differently. Well, I will say legally. Hold on, let me see who answered that. Who asked that question, Phil? When standing your ground, well, Texas is a stand, and it's Texas, right? Yeah, Texas is a stand your ground state, but you got to have he doesn't have a legal, see, the thing is, we don't know the manner in which Austin allegedly or actually put his hands on Karmelo. We don't know that. That's the evidence that's unknown. And I'm being fair on both sides. We don't know the extent to which hands were placed on him for him to feel that this is self-defense. So I can't just outright ipso facto say, well, knife versus hands, not legal. Because then we got to look at disparity of force. Who's the bigger, who's the smaller, who's the larger, who has the ability to exert more force over the other. There's a lot. So that's what that force science analyst certification comes in. You see what I'm saying? You said, wasn't the boys known for being bullies, and didn't they bully him before this? So let's go there. Let's go there. This is a great one. This is a great one. This is a great one. Wasn't the boys known for being bullies, and didn't they bully him before this? If in fact that is true, if in fact that is true, if in fact that is true, why would you knowingly place yourself in the dangerous propensities or the dangerous proximity of these alleged or actual bullies? Yeah, it would make sense to stay away from them. And so if in fact it could be proven that they were bullies, why would you knowingly go amongst these bullies unless your goal was to delete them? If that is true, premeditation is 100%. If in fact they were known adversaries, if in fact they were known, you can't then place yourself in the dangerous propensities which would make you an aggressor and then claim self-defense. It's not going to work. So I don't know if the bullies argument is going to be one that's going to hold up, because you see what I'm saying? You said maybe the parents told him to stand up to them and bet not lose. That is definitely, it's not exclusive, but that is something that happens in black culture. Not to every black child, but to a percentage of them. Yes, that is definitely something that happens in black culture. This time, you bet not lose. You come back with an L, I'm going to get you. So now, either way, you back that child, teenager into a corner. Do y'all get what I'm saying? He said, if the roles were reversed, y'all got great questions. How many people? Okay, good. Oh, 64 people. Good. Hit them like buttons, please. Hit the like button, please. If the roles were reversed and a TY child. Oh, got it. I'm not thinking. If the roles were reversed and a child is in a hostile area and is scared for your life and a threat is made, then self-defense is right and lawful. I don't know. Yeah, self-defense. But what does this self-defense look like, though? What does this self-defense look like? Does that make sense? What does this self-defense look like? Self-defense can also be running away. Self-defense doesn't have to mean we fight. You do understand that. Self-defense, thanks Dale for the Cash App. I appreciate that. Self-defense can also be you running away. You don't have to fight. Sorry. That's like, just because I'm a pew-pew owner, that doesn't mean I have to get in that conflict. Does that make sense? So every battered wife best not go home and delete their husband. Yes, like, because now you're taking steps towards doing that. One of the things you learn quickly when taking up a martial art is that fighting is 99% not worth it. Yes. Yes, like, do we have to? You said self-defense is different than self-offense. Yeah, you're correct. Totally correct. 1000% correct. Yes. The victim's lawyers are definitely going to use why was a knife brought to a sporting event. Yeah. Yeah. And he would have to have evidence to be able to prove, in fact, that there were credible threats going to school, coming from school, and have to have an offer of proof of those things. If his attorneys have an offer of proof of problems that he has experienced going to and from school that may support the reason to bring the knife. But just because there could have been a reason to bring the knife doesn't ipso facto mean that this is a reason to have used the knife upon Austin. Does that make sense? Yeah. You said looking good? Thank you. I appreciate that, Renee. Remonet, hope I'm saying that right. We don't know what kind of knife it was. We don't. We don't know. See, there's a lot of questions. Y'all good. We don't know. The second part is the real issue, correct? I'm thinking about starting my own. I'm thinking about starting my OnlyFans. Thoughts on that? Trying to get my money out here. Try with feet pictures, I guess. I hear that's a thing. You better get a pedicure, the paraffin wax. Nobody want to see your ugly. Nobody will see ugly feet, unless you got eagle talons. Right? Only man's. Right. Here we go. But did you know that a few weeks ago in Clean, Texas, there was another incident where a child was taken, had taken another child with a knife? Yeah. You said, I see you with all those degrees. No, my master's is over there. That's for science. That's USCCA. Those are my anger management specialist and emotional management certifications. Notary, trauma-informed coach. I'm a parenting facilitator, live scan. So there's effective. So these all are different. And this isn't even a quarter of what I have. I'm not bragging. I'm just responding to what you said. I got a bunch of calls to return in a minute. Yeah, they're not all degrees. I'm still in college right now getting other degrees. I appreciate that, Enigma. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah. And unpaid therapist. What's a good outside the waistband holster? It depends on what pum you have and how you plan on, you said outside. Oh, Safariland. I swear by it. Alien Gear's got some good ones. Black Hawk. It depends on whether you get the T-Series. It's a variety of different ones. You just got to try one out and see what works for you. Look at reviews online. Here's a good indicator. Who's gotten their shit snatched? Don't get that one. Don't get that one. That's crazy. But Safariland, I love Safariland. I know in Arizona, a pocket knife isn't on the Arizona revised statutes for a weapon not allowed. Safariland is the best. Yes. All right, y'all gotta get out of here in a minute. You said no Safariland? Yeah, Safariland is the best. Yeah, I love that as an outside the waistband one. He supposedly said, touch me and see what happens, which would be more evidence of premeditation. I don't know. It depends. The statement, touch me and see what happens, isn't in and of itself evidence of premeditation. It is a warning. It's a warning. Does that make sense? Touch me and see what happens. It's a if then. It's a if you touch me, this could happen. And it's contingent upon you touching him. Well, Austin touched him, allegedly, according to police reports, and, well, we saw what happened. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't one of those grab the knife, don't say nothing, stab. It was a touch me and see what happens. Austin did that thing and found out what, I mean, that, rest in peace, Austin, but you did F around and find out. And that's why I said, for me, on either side, there are no winners. There are no winners on either side, because if Austin would have kept his hands to himself, don't get me wrong, get on your side. This isn't your side. This is our side. Whatever the case may be, got it. So you ain't gonna leave? Hell no, I ain't gonna leave. Touch me and see what happens. Oh, I got something for you. Mr. Timothy? Mr. Timothy. No, you're busy? All right, Mr. O'Shag Hennessy. Mr. Sean O'Shaughnessy. We got us one. Even if we would have said we got us one. Don't say we got us one. He's not moving. He's on our side. He goes to whatever the name of the school is. He goes to River Forest. And he's on the wrong side. And here comes Mr. O'Shaughnessy. Listen, I don't recall you being on my roster. Johnson, Washington, Lopez, Metcalf. What's your name? You got on the wrong uniform there. What's your name? My name is Mr. O'Shaughnessy. Nice to meet you. High five. You got on the wrong uniform there. You're clear. You didn't go to Memorial, did you? No, I don't have you on my roster. So it turns out that according to Austin here, you are on the wrong side. Where do you belong? You go to River Forest? Well, I mean, we'd love to have you if you transfer to Memorial, but at present, you're not at Memorial. So you might want to go on that side. I mean, as you can see, Austin and pals, they're pretty mad. Now, I could walk away and it could be some fisticuffs thrown. You don't want that to happen, do? Oh, you got the knife against me too? Hold on, police. You see what I'm saying? Like, call the big folks. There's other things that could have been done, right? But teenager decided to play adult and put his hands on somebody else, and you see what I'm saying? Nobody wins. What would be the steps you would take to try to stop that? Okay. What would be the steps that you would try to take to put a stop to that violence? Kids deleting each other in high schools is not supposed to happen. The admins and parents of those kids have failed them. Well, what I would say is this. That's a good question. Can y'all still hear me? What I would say is, where were the adults out there? Where were the adults out there? That would be a big thing to me. Where were the adults out there? Right? You said kids have been deleting kids since I was a youngin' and I'm 42. We're in the same age group. I'm 43. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. This really isn't nothing new. This isn't anything new. But I'm just saying, Austin could have kept his hands to himself. And that's the only one thing that I can say about Austin. If Austin would have kept his hands to himself and went to get an adult, we probably wouldn't have that. We probably, because we don't know if he didn't try to delete him as he was walking away. So, I don't know. I don't know. Does that make sense? Yeah. If Austin would have kept his hands to himself, he would still be here. If Karmelo would have stayed on his side, he would have still been here. Oh, you said stand your ground applies. No one likes it when the rabbit has the gun or the knife in this case. No, stand your ground doesn't apply. That I don't see that argument holding water in Texas. Not in this circumstance. Okay, let me ask you this, Percy. I'm gonna give you audience. Why do you think stand your ground does apply? What's your fact pattern and your offer of proof? See, now I'm using legalese. What's your fact pattern and your offer of proof that stand your ground? Thank you for the $10 super chat, Phil. You said you have the God-given right to live free. You do. That's why you should have fucking stayed on your side. That's what. Does that make sense? You should have, if you would have stayed on your side. Thank you for the $10 super chat. If you would have stayed on your side, you would have still been living free. This wasn't a situation where you were put in it. You put yourself in it. Don't you have to be somewhere you're not allowed to be? Oh, I'm sorry. I misread that, Firestar. Sorry. Don't you have to be somewhere you're allowed to be? Well, legally speaking, just because this is the side. Okay, good. Legally speaking, just because this is the side that the school is on, so to speak, right? Like this is Memorial and this is School B. That doesn't mean because he walked over to there, it's illegally being in those bleachers. Does that make sense? What I'm talking about is your side and this side. It's not a legal thing. It's just this is designated for your school and this is designated for their school. Legally, you see what I'm saying? They can be on either side legally, right? So I can't say it was illegal for him to be on Memorial side. That would not be true at all. That's okay. That's okay, Ghetto Outlaw. You said because he didn't have to retreat or okay, I'm reading. I'm sorry. Because he didn't have to retreat or match force with equal force. He has I got to write this down because I want to follow your pattern, your statement, because there's some flaws in these arguments and I'm seeing them already. Damn it. Pad and freaking, okay, here we go. So you said He doesn't have to retreat, so no duty to retreat or match force on force, which that's actually okay. We can have that argument. He has to use the justifiable force necessary to stop the threat. So you said justifiable use of force to stop the threat. Yeah. He stabbed him once and ran, not multiple times. Okay. Stabbed once, not multiple. Here's a problem where your argument has issues. Okay. Here's a problem where your argument has issues. Phil says segregation has ended. Okay. Some places, use of a knife under any circumstance is not self-defense. Ghetto Outlaw said, I will say this, the media does not portray things correctly to the public, which a lot of people really don't understand. It's all about that's the media's job, is to sell the best story that'll get them clicks and views. If you want an army of squirrels, how many squirrels would you have as an army? I don't know. I'm not going to even read that. It's crazy. I mean, I read it already. A knife might be used if there's disparity of force. Absolutely. So here's a problem that I see with your arguments, right? You said no duty to retreat. Yes, no duty to retreat, but should you retreat, right? And that's not necessarily a legal standard. That's just I should do this to stay alive. That's all that I'm saying, okay? So you don't have a duty to match force on force. It just depends on what the community standard is. Because remember I said self-defense is a community standard, right? What does the community say about that? And in absence of a community standard, what would be the next largest body of law? Like you got your county, then you've got state case law, then you've got federal case law. So what does the case law say when it comes down to matching force on force? I would argue that when we look at reasonable or proportionality of force, right? When we're talking about disparity of force, is Austin bigger than Karmelo? Okay. When we look at Austin being bigger than Karmelo, you said Texas Penal Code 9. Let me look that up. Texas Penal Code Chapter 9, justification. This is exonerations of criminal responsibility. Hold on. Give me 1 minute. I'm reading this. Okay, so here we go. Texas Penal Code Section 9-4 or 9.04. Threat says justifiable force. The threat of force is justified when the use of force is justified by this chapter. For purposes of this section, a threat to cause death or serious bodily injury by the production of a weapon or otherwise, as long as the actor's purpose is limited to creating an apprehension that he will use deadly force if necessary, does not constitute deadly force. So in layman's terms, what that means is the put your hands on me and see what happens isn't necessarily a threat of using deadly force, because that's very vague. It's very ambiguous. It could have been a water gun in there. It could have been a real firearm. It could have been a knife. It could have been anything. So that is not a direct threat of the use of deadly force. That's going to be very vague. I would like to see how the prosecution is going to try to classify that as a deadly threat. Put your hands on me and see what happens. Vague. That's vague. Okay. I'm looking at other sections. Okay, so here we go. Necessity. Conduct is justified if, 1, the actor reasonably believes that the conduct is immediately necessary to avoid imminent harm. How can you claim that if you put yourself in the very propensity of the harm you allege is going to be present. You see what I'm saying? So if in fact it was they were bullying me before, if in fact that's the case, and then you knowingly insert yourself in this thing, this beef, whatever, do you then get to claim self-defense? Does that make sense? Do you then get to claim self-defense, right? Here we go. Number 2, the desirability and urgency of avoiding the harm clearly outweigh, according to ordinary standards of reasonableness, the harm sought to be prevented by the law prescribing the conduct. But see, if in fact it's the case that you went to a side that you know is not yours, what was the utility of going to that side, the competition, right, when they asked you to leave? Why didn't you? Why didn't you? Don't get me wrong. You're not under any obligation to leave. You're not. But why didn't you? Does that make sense? Why didn't you? You're not under any obligation to leave. You don't have to. But why didn't you? If you're trying to avoid imminent harm, okay, I'm going to get to what you put down, TNT. But if you're trying to avoid imminent harm, why didn't you? Does that make sense? Y'all sign off in the comments. Does that make sense? I'm only going to Texas Penal Code Section 9.22, necessity, the necessity defense, right? Conduct is justified if the actor reasonably believed that the conduct is immediately necessary to avoid imminent harm. Now, you said Mr. Anthony said he had permission to be under there because it was a downpour of rain. Mr. Austin approached Mr. Anthony. See, here's this, Percy. If, in fact, he had permission, I'm not saying he did or did not, okay? But if, in fact, he had permission, right? If I am the person giving the permission, is it upon me to know that I'm putting him in the mouth of the lions? That he's from an opposite school, and because of the downpour of the rain, sure, you can go on up there and sit in the tent. And you guys won't let me hear? Let me go back and talk to the person. No. See, here's the problem, Percy. You want to not answer the question. Answer the question asked. You said, sir, this is a school activity, not gangland. We're not going to do whataboutisms here or deflecting. Answer the question asked. That's how we have dialogue. Dialogue. Come on now. This is your question. Mr. Anthony said he had permission to be under there because there was a downpouring of rain. If I am the school official that gave permission, right, it would be really interesting to hear from the person saying he gave him permission. Yeah. Because if you gave him permission, walk him up there. Hey, guys, we're going to let such and such from the other school, we're going to let him sit over here because I don't want him to get in the rain. Okay? Y'all play nice. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. I don't see you saying nothing, Percy. Here we go. Because you're trying to avoid imminent harm. Avoid imminent harm. Everything in Section 9.22 is talking about doing things to avoid that harm. Right? Now, some of y'all say, well, he stabbed him to avoid the harm. Not if you're putting yourself in the dangerous propensities of that harm you claim is there. All right, here we go. Texas Penal Code Section 9.31, self-defense. Except as provided in subsection B, a person is justified in using force against another when and to the degree that the actor reasonably believes that the force is necessary or is immediately necessary to protect the actor against another's use or attempted use of unlawful force. But here we go. Here's the operative condition: immediately necessary. Immediately necessary. If you had time to go into your bag and hold on to the object on the inside of that bag, and then have the time to issue a verbal declaration of your intent, whatever that may be, that's not immediate. That's not immediate. That's not immediate. There's time that I dare you touch me. Then you're waiting on the touch to then facilitate the act. That's not immediate. That's not immediate. That's not immediate. It's not immediate. Sorry. Phone call came through. Can y'all still hear me? Let me know you can still hear me in the comments. The actor's belief that the force was immediately necessary as described. Hold on, y'all. All right, thank you. You already paid it. Shred it. Sorry, y'all. Mail. Yeah, here we go. So, a delay, yeah. You said 99% of the time you can avoid conflicts. You just have to do so. Remember that it's your feelings that get you in trouble. Absolutely. Here we go. The actor's belief that the force was immediately necessary as described by this section is presumed to be reasonable if the actor knew or had reason to believe that the person whom force was used unlawfully and with force entered. Oh, that's okay. That's got nothing to do with this. That's some other stuff. Use of force against another is not justified in response to verbal provocation alone, to resist arrest or search that the actor is being okay, that's the peace officer part. If the actor provoked the other's use or attempted use of unlawful force, unless the actor abandons the encounter or clearly communicates to the other his intent to do so, reasonably believing that he cannot safely abandon the encounter, and the other nevertheless continues or attempts to use unlawful force against the actor, or if the actor sought an explanation from or discussion with the other person concerning the actor's differences with the other person while the actor was carrying a weapon in violation of section 46.02 or transporting a weapon in violation of 46.05. Immediate can also perceived as soon as Mr. Percy, I understand that not everybody understands how to interpret the law, and that's totally fine. But you're putting the cart before the horse. You said immediate can also be perceived as soon as Mr. Austin assaulted Mr. Anthony, used force. You're putting the cart before the horse. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. You're putting the cart before the horse. We got to, there are steps that get you to this point. There are steps that get you to this point. What were those steps? That's not immediate. You're trying to look at the assault, alleged assault, or actual assault. You're trying to look at that instead of the steps that got you before there. And that's a black culture thing. It's always the act and never the precipitators or the antecedents. That's black culture. That's a black culture thing. Not exclusive, but definitely within the culture, for sure. Now, you about to get offended, I'm going to have to block your ass instead of just looking at, well, you might be right. Yeah, I know. All right, I got to get out of here. Sign up in the comments. What do you think? Peace.